Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPMP News. It's January 3rd, 2026, and there was a big strike last night in Venezuela where we sent in Delta Force and we ended up taking Maduro as a prisoner, according to the papers today, right? Nicolas Maduro and wife captured after large-scale strikes. Trump says Venezuelan leaders in custody. And then you saw pictures come out where you could see him, right? He's in custody. He's on the plane. I'm going to use this photo actually as probably for the thumbnail for this dig today. But what's been happening, right? It seems like event after event comes out where that are trying to hide other events, right? Another big piece of information I think that came out, and that may be the title of this particular show, is that part of the Epstein documents that came out was a document where a female is alleging that her newborn child was disposed of on a yacht in Lake Michigan with Epstein and Trump both allegedly being present, as her uncle, who was trafficking her at the time as a 13-year-old who was pregnant, disposed of her newborn baby in the presence, allegedly, of Trump and Epstein. Now, I have the document here that is document number 25010 PDF from JusticeDepartment.gov Epstein files. The data set is EFTA 0002510.pdf. The case ID number, if you want to also plug that case ID number in to make sure, like I did, we're going to do that right now, that it goes back to the justice.gov site, to the Epstein files that they just released. The case ID number is 50D like David -NY -3027571. And again, that's 50D like David New York NY -3027571. The date of this document that has been unredacted from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's an unclassified document. The date of this document is August the 3rd, 2020. Epstein Jeffrey child sex trafficking, drafted by redacted. Date and time received was August the 3rd, 2020 at 6:01 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Here's the details. I'm going to read. This is a 4-page document, and I think it's extremely important that we read it through in its entirety so that we can understand. The details. On August the 3rd, 2020 at 5:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, a person's name redacted, date of birth redacted, email address redacted, Los Lunas, New Mexico 87031. A cellular telephone number is redacted, internet protocol address redacted, which resolves at Albuquerque, New Mexico. Submitted an online tip to the FBI National Threat Operations Center, NTOC, via tips.fbi.gov to report a follow-up tip regarding being a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. So this is a person that's doing a follow-up tip that has already been a whistleblower about Epstein before. Okay, and she's going to go into detail about that somebody contacted her initially from the FBI, who she spoke to and gave all of the details to, and then she never heard back from them again, and nothing seemed to happen, right? Which would go back to the story of Epstein's being protected. But wait till you hear this girl's story. The original story that she told is so mind-boggling that I'll just go on from here. A lot of this is redacted, so I'm going to go slow through it. So this is a follow-up tip, right? Again, she's reporting a follow-up tip regarding being a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. So she's already made her first call and has dealt with the FBI or somebody from there before, right? No, redacted is the real name, and AKA name is redacted. Date submitted August the 3rd, 2020 at 5:11 p.m. Eastern Time. Transaction number 6914 ABDO or ABD0 1FE1 4719-9BFC-D 0006 Baker 422A613. That's a lot of numbers. Threat to life false. Submitted text. So here's her statement. I previously provided a tip about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, under an alias I have for myself. Redacted. All the other details of the previous tip match all the information given in today's tip, except I am giving my real name. A detective from the NYPD FBI Sex Trafficking Task Force called me a couple of weeks ago from a 212 area code number. I talked to him for about 20 or 30 minutes about my being sex trafficked by my uncle and Jeffrey Epstein in 1984 while I was 13 years old and pregnant. I told him some other important information about other high-profile individuals involved in my sex trafficking and the murder and disposal of my newborn daughter because I gave birth to her while in the middle of this sex trafficking ordeal. I cannot remember the detective's name, nor do I have a number where I can contact him. I would like to have his name and contact information, and I would also like to know if there will be any further follow-up, ? Violation other. Violation questions. What was the exact crime that occurred? Child sex trafficking and infanticide, which is the death of an infant, right? So this girl is alleging she was sex trafficked by her uncle while pregnant to Jeffrey Epstein. And during the time that she was being trafficked around by her uncle, she gives birth to this newborn baby that is then, according to her allegation, killed by her uncle and disposed of. When did the crime/incident occur? Please provide an approximate date and time. She says May through September 1984, which is kind of a long, wide range, right? You would think you'd know that a little more conclusively what time that was, but maybe not if you're being trafficked and you're not aware of what's going on, right? It's 1984. There's no internet. There's no cell phones. Not the way we have them today. Where did the crime incident occur? Please provide the specific location if possible. Mostly from a yacht in Lake Michigan, originating from Mona Lake, Michigan. So it's interesting that she's talking about Lake Michigan because there's islands in some of these Great Lakes too, right? I'm not sure if Lake Michigan has an island in it. I have to go back and look into it. We'll do that more later. So she's alleging that her uncle disposed of her baby, killed it, on a boat that was in Lake Michigan, and she was also trafficked to Epstein. Complainant information, first name redacted, it's all redacted. Address redacted, Las Lunas, New Mexico. Subject information, first name Jeffrey, last name Epstein. This is age, DEC, date of birth, nothing there. Additional info. I am just wanting to reconnect with the original detective that called me, and I offered information about this. How is contact known? He was orchestrating a deal along with my uncle where different men and a few women and girls would come to a variety of boats and yachts and pay money to force me to redacted with them when I was 13 years old and pregnant. So I'm assuming it's some kind of sexual acts. So the uncle is allegedly trafficking his niece, who's pregnant at the time. Then she has the baby, he disposes of that baby, and then continues to traffic this girl, his niece, to rich people aboard different yachts in Lake Michigan. Now here's where it gets interesting. Witness information, first name Donald, last name Trump, age 70, date of birth not given. Additional info, again, just trying to find out the NYPD detective on the FBI Sex Trafficking Task Force that called me a couple of weeks ago and spoke to me about some of these issues. How is contact known? He participated regularly in paying money to force me to redacted with him, and he was present when my uncle murdered my newborn child and disposed of the body in Lake Michigan. Type, business address redacted. City, Washington, D.C., State District of Columbia. Remote IP redacted. Remote host api.fbi.gov. So it says something about here about latitude, longitude, etc. The person. That's the end of it. So this person is alleging that she was trafficked by her uncle as a 13-year-old in 1984. That she gave birth to a newborn baby while she was being trafficked. I'm assuming she was impregnated by one of the people she was trafficked to. And then the uncle disposed of the baby allegedly aboard a yacht. And not only was Donald Trump there at some point, but so was Jeffrey Epstein. Again, just trying to find out the NYPD detective on the FBI sex trap. So she's trying to find out the initial person that she spoke to, who apparently she didn't get the person's name or an ID number or anything. So she just gave all this information to somebody that called her back from the tip line and said that they were from the tip line, which could have been anybody, right? That could have been somebody who was connected to Epstein that was trying to find out what she knew, right? Now, this could also explain why certain people in the FBI, NYPD sex trafficking task force committed suicide, right? Remember, there was all these things. Well, these guys saw the frazzle drip video from Weiner's laptop that had allegedly had, some horrible stuff like a girl getting horribly tortured and her face ripped off, right, by Hillary Clinton. And those people all disappeared. But what if some of these people disappeared because they had knowledge of this information and it never came out, right? And it should have come out if it was in 2020 when this girl's following back up after something that happened in 1984. Why did this never come up? Why is the FBI, somebody within the FBI covered up this information, and this girl's calling back saying, why wasn't any follow-up? I never saw anybody getting arrested. How come you didn't go after Trump and question him in 2020 when you had this information, apparently? How is contact known? He participated regularly in paying money to force me to blank with him, and he was present when my uncle murdered my newborn child and disposed of the body in Lake Michigan. So she's talking about Donald Trump was there, and so was Epstein. That's not me saying that. That's this document saying it. That's this whistleblower saying it, who at the time was 13 years old, pregnant with one of these animals' child, who she's been forced to sleep with by her uncle, who's trafficking her to Jeffrey Epstein aboard a yacht in Lake Michigan in 1984. And allegedly she has the baby during this time, that she's being trafficked around by her uncle to different boats, because she says it's multiple different people. It's not just Trump, it's other people. It's probably Epstein, and she said even some women. And some of the time that this girl is allegedly, her allegation is that she was trafficked while pregnant. So I just leave that document there. I'll leave you the link to it. It's in the comment section. It'll be down there somewhere in this dig. Right. These are allegations made by a whistleblower back in 2020 against Jeffrey Epstein and President Trump. So we'll see if anybody in the press goes with these documents and looks into it more. I've showed you where the document is. If I go and search. If I search this number, right, case number this, and I just open up a new window and I search case ID, I already searched it. You can see, right, case ID and this number, what comes back up? It takes you right back to the Epstein document we were just in, right? It's the same document, right? 25010, 25010, 25010. So, yeah, the case ID in a search, case ID 50D/NY/3027571 takes you back to the JusticeDepartment.gov's website. And this whistleblower is asking, why didn't you do anything? Why wasn't anything done to look into what happened to my baby? Why wasn't my uncle brought in, who I had just accused of sex trafficking me to people like Jeffrey Epstein and allegedly Donald Trump? And why didn't that ever come out? Especially in 2020 or earlier, when the allegation was made back in 1984. I don't remember hearing about this girl's story ever, so obviously nobody did anything about it. The FBI didn't do anything about it, right? Why? Because Epstein was an agent, an asset of either the CIA, Mossad, or both. And some other, he was working in important cases for these people, running arms and doing different things, right? Because you got to go back to Afghanistan to understand what's really part of what's going on here. Whereas there was a bunch of proxy wars that went on after World War II was over, right? And if you believe what Kim Gogwen's talking about, she's saying, well, the Nazis made the glockenspiel, right? They made the Nazi bell, which allowed them, through the use of mercury, red mercury or some kind of mercury, spinning it around in a certain fashion, they created a time machine that they couldn't control. But I think they did get control of it later. I remember the first Nazi bell was like a whole complete nightmare. They couldn't control it. It was causing a time wave distortion or something all around it, right? So these people have been fucking around, time traveling for a long time. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice. Let's hear what Trump says about Maduro.
The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil.
Okay, so, what is this really, right? Is this just, did they really get Maduro? I'm assuming they did. They sent Delta in, so now what are you going to do? They're saying, well, we're going to run the country with Hegseth and what's his name, right? But wait a minute, you're talking about these guys running the country now. What about the vice president? Nope. So I was thinking about the serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, right? If you look inside of Epstein's house, he has a similar sort of statue thing where it's a rope, and what's the rope for? What does the rope signify? And then he's got the girl on the rope going down like wearing a bridal outfit. So I just thought that it was similar to sort of like the Podesta statue that he has in his house, where it's one of the Dahmer victims, right? California billionaires threaten to leave the state over proposed 5% tax on wealthy residents. The proposal would see a one-time 5% tax on the assets of residents in California worth more than $1 billion. So that's what I'm talking about. See, some of these people might say, hey, maybe I'll go to like Florida, right, where they don't even have like certain taxes that they have here at all, right? Maybe I'll just fuck off to Cali and go to like Arizona. Or maybe I'll go to another state where the land's super cheap and the tax setup is more economical for me, right? I don't need to be in California per se anymore. Although it's, same thing for New York, right? If Mamdani tries to do that here and says, well, let's be more socialist, I keep looking up different things about socialism. How is it different from communism, right? Well, he's talking about a collective right off the bat, right? If you listen to Mamdani's acceptance speech, where he's buried in the old subway system I was telling you about, the old City Hall station for some reason. Why is he underground, sworn in secret, in an underground ceremony? All right, that's odd. I've never seen any other mayor get sworn in that way before. Never seen any other mayor get sworn in the City Hall, old City Hall station, which is a beautiful subway station. So if Mamdani's plan is to just, what does socialism really talk about? Well, you can have some private land, maybe. You can usually have a farm, maybe. But they're not guaranteeing it, right? Okay, well, all the big corporate stuff, nobody can own it. We should own it as a corporation. Well, then how do you deal with it? How do you do that, right? You'd have to have huge boards of people that would be running these massive conglomerates and these massive pieces of land and things that you have to run, right? How would you do it without some kind of private, some companies going private, right? Or it makes it more economical to do certain things. DHS launches massive investigation into some Somali fraud in Minnesota. Homeland Security investigators are on the ground in Minneapolis right now conducting a massive investigation on child care and other rampant fraud. Right? And what they found was when they went to some of these centers where it's like these huge industrial parks with all these different businesses, and when they go into the businesses that are all these daycares, and there's no one there. There's no daycare. It's just an address, a fake address, because these people are making up their own LLCs and then they're going after that COVID money, right? Going after government funds and COVID cash and payouts that are getting huge kickbacks to these politicians who are doing it. This goes all the way up to, it's not just Somalis though, right? I mean, you can come to New York and find way more fraud than that. They're paying people off who are dead, right? It's not just, it's a triple threat. Like I said, they're not just paying off people. Somebody's getting benefits from a dead person, but then they're voting in the dead person's name, and they're getting Social Security from that dead person, and maybe they're getting food stamps from that dead person. So it's like a triple, quadruple ripoff of the system by somebody in the know, right? Who has control of. That's why Trump came out with this thing. He said he did that executive order, which was probably a smart thing. That was one thing that was smart. That said you have to redo all your books, right? You have to redo your voter rolls. So I hope you guys had a nice New Year. I actually didn't even stay up till New Year's. I tried. I stayed up till like 11:15, and I started getting really tired. So I did my New Year's thing around that time, 11:30. I didn't go up to Times Square with all those crazy. I've never been to Times Square to see the ball drop ever, and I've lived in New York my whole life, so that's the thing most other people do. Although some natives might do it. There's not too many natives really left, real natives anymore. DHS launches door-to-door search for illegal aliens at accused fraud sites in Minneapolis. Yeah, you'll be able to find them. Just get better at rolling up on these guys. Russia claims Ukraine attacked Vladimir Putin residence with more than 90 drones. Zelensky slams typical Russian lies. So that bullshit just keeps going on and on. Zelensky splits with Trump and doubts Putin wants peace in Ukraine. He doesn't see it. That was 5 days ago. Ilhan Omar's husband now in the crosshairs as Minnesota fraud scandal questions mount. I was watching, Tori Maris's show, and she's talking about, why, Doug Burgum is more guilty of some of these crimes than some of the people in Minnesota. Well, why is your boy Trump then put him in his cabinet? You ever wonder that? What the fuck is he doing? What kind of judgment does he have if he doesn't know that? And if you have his ear or any way to get in touch with him, why wouldn't you have told him, hey, this guy Burgum is no good? Why would you put Doug Burgum in there, right? He's bad news. He's been doing the same kind of fraud in North Dakota that other people are doing in Minnesota. Why would you put him in there? How come there doesn't seem to be anybody that you can put into these jobs that is actually going to look into fraud and do something about it? Like these untouchable types that you need, right? Remember the untouchables? That were supposed to be people that were beyond reproach. You couldn't threaten them to do what you wanted. You couldn't bribe them to do what you wanted. But these people have managed to make it so that they got compromise on everybody. And it's not just a little bit of compromise. I mean, look at what this girl is alleging that Donald Trump and Epstein were there doing. I believe her story. And I believe that she's calling back saying, what the fuck is going on? How come nobody told me anything? Nobody got back to me after I make an allegation like that? That's a pretty big allegation. I'm accusing this person of infanticide, of witnessing it, right? Which is the same thing as if you did it and you did nothing. Is there any records of, these boats and where they were at certain times in 1984, in August, summer of 1984? Trump says U.S. military took out big facility in Venezuela. So they hit a dock in Venezuela, and then they send in Delta, apparently, overnight last night or the night before, we don't know. And they took Maduro and his wife prisoner. And I heard that they were on a boat, that they were not on a plane, which is interesting. Why they put them on a boat? Are they worried that someone's going to try to take that plane down, right? Is my guess. Maybe they feel like it's better if he's in a boat. Then they could switch him at sea to another boat, and they can't find out where he is anymore. Right? If somebody's looking to try to rescue him or something, or take him out. Inside signals show follow-up strikes in Nigeria are coming. So it looks like Trump's trying to get us involved in like a bunch of different sort of smaller wars around, like Venezuela. But still, it begs the question, why didn't you do anything in your first term about? You could have saved probably 1 million people's lives, if not more. We don't know how many people actually starved to death in that initial purge that happened in Venezuela back in Trump's first term. That was a purge of people that went on for more than a year, right? Where people were just literally starving to death. And the government just did nothing. And nobody did anything. Buckle up, Tim Waltz, FBI Director Kash Patel teases major fraud action in Minnesota. What is Patel doing about all these? Now it looks like there's millions and millions of more of Epstein files that are out there. Is that why these are being slow-walked? Because look at what just came out in this fucking batch that's accusing Trump of this and Epstein of that. That means that they were hanging out in 84. That's way before I've ever heard them hanging out before. Right? That's the earliest we've ever heard. Because remember, he doesn't come into the picture until 1990, Epstein, in terms of he's dating Maxwell and he's in the scene more. I don't remember seeing him and Trump early like that. But remember, Trump is trying to get the teen pageant girls. Remember that he's running this pageant. He's trying to set up a cruise where it's just going to be Epstein and him and all these girls, right? And I'm sure some select older friends of theirs that are going to be doing whatever they're doing, right? Allegedly. Carney pledges $2.5 billion for Ukraine to rebuild. So these people are just giving away Canada's money, and they're giving away England's money and the United States money. All this money is going into this country, right? And it's got, and it just goes into a sieve, like a hole. Coal plants to remain open to prevent blackouts in Midwest. Energy Secretary. The coal plant units scheduled to cease operations in December will now remain open until March 23rd, 2026. What's going to happen then? Well, you're seeing what Trump is going towards. He's going towards fusion. That's what the Chinese are doing. They already made a fake sun, right? Their own sun. I think they're going to go with, like, I don't know if it's cold fusion or it's fusion, but I think the Nazis already had that, right? Or Tesla, somebody had it already. Maybe the Nazis took some of Tesla's stuff at the end. I don't know. They obviously had, one off planet, and they went back in time. But how far back and what they did, we don't know. They made a lot of different loops, it looks like. Time loops. That's what they're saying. And that's what's been running us your whole life has been AI. You just didn't realize it till now. Now everyone's saying, oh, AI, like it's just been there. It's been there the whole time. It's been running the simulation you're living in. Imagine America with only 450,000 immigrants a year. How about none? How about zero for a year? What would happen? Are you saying all the farms would shut down? I don't think so. FBI surged resources to Minnesota early in federal fraud investigation, Patel says. The FBI is aware of recent social media reports in Minnesota, he said, referring to a recent viral video on allegedly fraudulent daycare in the state. Singer David, with a 4, right, D4VD, is expected to face murder charges in the death of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas. Yeah, I'm 100% I'm 100% almost sure that he did it or was involved in it somehow. This poor girl's spirit is screaming to be for justice too, right? You can't do horrible crimes like this, didn't get away with it just because you happen to be. I mean, look at how this guy's already been treated with kid gloves compared to, look at how Diddy was treated. Remember when they went in to get Diddy? How come they didn't take this kid out the same way? This kid killed somebody allegedly, right? And remember, they found the thing in the house where it's set up like an oven to set up where it's a very hot, burns very hot, like it could melt bone. It could just get rid of all bone. So this kid might have been killing people before, right? He might have been a disposal unit for bodies. We don't know. Trump backs Netanyahu after rumors of friction, talks tough on Iran. So Netanyahu comes to D.C. and then all of a sudden it looks like the fake Trump or whoever this is the clone Trump is right behind him, right? He's in cahoots with him. They're going to do Trump Gaza. Worst of the worst site, 70% of illegal aliens arrested by ICE in 2025 have a criminal history. That's a lot. That means 7 out of 10 of these people that they're arresting are bad and have a criminal past. Some of them could be rapists, murderers. What good do these kinds of people do to your society? They have no benefit whatsoever. I don't care that they work cheap. It's not worth the risk of all the, we'll make robots that can do the things that these people do. That way we don't have to import these kinds of people into our society anymore. Let them stay in their own countries and fix them from within, which is what they should have done a long time ago. Of course, some of these countries never had a chance. They were meddled with from outside, like the Venezuela is being, like Mexico has been, like most of South America and Central America has been, Guatemala, Panama, the list, I could go on. NYC poised to force landlords to sell private property to nonprofits to ensure affordable housing. The bill would require landlords who sell their New York City property to give first dibs to nonprofit entities. See, you're going to get sued when you do stuff like this because that's not how a capitalist society works. Everybody has access to the sale price, right? If it's on the market, I can come in and you shouldn't get first dibs on it, right? That's illegal. That's giving special treatment to one group of people only, and the other people don't get treated the same. So I don't know why you would want to live in a world like that, where you're saying, well, these people who own all the stuff, the rich people, they have a disproportionate amount of control. Well, so are you. The system you want to put in gives you the control and gives you first dibs. Why should you get first dibs? If the city wants to buy a piece of property from somebody, then they could outbid the other parties for it. But it shouldn't get the city or some affordable housing entity that the city creates or that the city wants to work with shouldn't be allowed to get first dibs on any property. That's not how it works. If it's a foreclosed property, then the city wants to purchase it or some people want to purchase it. You can bid at auction with all the other bidders. You don't get special privileges. That's not how it works. Unless you want to put in a new system with new rules where it's going to make it that no one's going to want to buy property in places like New York anymore because it's not going to be feasible. You're not going to be able to make a profit on the back end of it, right? Because you might be forced to sell to some group like this at a deflated price point that you don't want to sell at, right? Necessarily. So one of these people we're talking about, Michael Jaco. Michael Jaco is no good. Anything having to do with Michael Jaco, I don't fuck around with because Michael Jaco is former CIA and I don't trust him. So LifeWave, anything like this, no, I don't mess around with these products. I can't vouch for what they're doing to you. Like, I was just getting on my sister. She wears an Apple Watch. And she's going on about, she's in her 50s and my hair is thinning and I'm losing my hair. Well, I'm like, look at what you're doing. You're walking around wearing a device that's giving off radiation. And it's right next to your skin. It's going right into your body. And on top of that, you got an Apple phone, right? Plus you got a second phone because of your job. So you got two phones and an Apple Watch. So you're just surrounded by radiation all day long, and you got to leave that phone on all day, right? And you're sitting in front of a computer screen, and you're in New York, so it's 5G, and right? Yeah. It's amazing you're still alive and you don't have cancer. With the rate you're going, you probably will at some point pretty soon, right? So, Ghislaine Maxwell's sister, Christine, right, she didn't co-found Chiliad, but she was, at some point, is the CEO of Chiliad, right? The firm's software was behind the data search technology used by the FBI's counterterrorism data warehouse, which is the warehouse they're trying to create after 9/11 happens, right? When they create the Department of Homeland Security and they create the warning system with the red and the different labels. Remember, for a while they had that. They wanted to create a one-stop shop where all the information is going to be, so that CIA, FBI, NSA, DIA, everybody can go in here and search. And who's running it? Christine Maxwell, the sister of Ghislaine Maxwell, who is a British subject, a British citizen, running, and who has access to some of the most secretive U.S. data of the time, right? I don't know how anybody thought that was okay. That's what the part of the story that Mike Benz doesn't have, and that he needs to plug that information in, and then try to deep dig Chiliad, which there's nothing there. They scrubbed it. And they scrubbed it for that reason, because they didn't want it known that the Maxwell families was in that deep into the U.S. infrastructure. They were all the way in. What is the Inslaw affair? A deep dive into the octopus. Forgot what I was looking into when I posted this. This is something from way back. EM360 tech site. What is the Inslaw affair? A deep dive into the octopus. Picture a scenario where a national government agency steals your legal management software to illegally traffic weapons and Class A drugs. This is exactly what happened to the software development company Inslaw in 1986 in a scandal that has become known as the Inslaw affair. I don't remember this. For years, the case has captivated those who have examined every detail or followed the mysterious fate of investigative journalist Danny Casolaro, who met his tragic end shortly after investigating its depths. But what really happened is, in the Inslaw case, and why does it continue to enthrall the public years after the original scandal? What is Inslaw? Inslaw Inc. is a software company that gained significant attention in the 80s due to its legal battles with the U.S. government. The company developed a case management software named Promise, which was initially designed to manage U.S. caseloads efficiently. Originally funded by a government grant in the 70s, the development of Promise brought it into the public domain, making it free for use. Edwin Meese, a notable figure of the time, expressed great enthusiasm for Promise, which is Promis, which was advertised as revolutionary for law enforcement. This sentiment culminated in a substantial contract worth $9.6 million awarded to Inslaw by the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, in March of 1982. The goal was to implement the public domain version of Promise in select U.S. attorneys' offices as a pilot program with the potential for expansion to federal prosecutors' offices nationwide. Promise, an acronym for Prosecutors Management Information System, revolutionized legal case management with its comprehensive suite of tools developed by Inslaw. The software emerged as a legal game changer, providing prosecutors and law enforcement agencies with a powerful tool set to streamline case management. So this was similar to what they wanted to do later with Chiliad, right? Of course, look at the old computer that they have here from the 80s with the Promise on it. That's funny. This thing's running on what, like 28-bit encryption, 28-bit graphics, or what, 28K or whatever it is. Remember the old dial-up modems? The software stood out for its specific focus on case management and its advanced capabilities tailored to the needs of prosecutors. Okay, so what happened? They used it for something else somebody did, right? The narrative surrounding Promise took a controversial turn when Inslaw accused the DOJ of illegally modifying it. Oh, okay, so they changed it. And if they didn't buy the whole, software from this guy and the patents for it, then they can't do that, I don't think. Allegations suggested that the DOJ had implemented unauthorized changes, including backdoor functionalities enabling covert surveillance and intelligence gathering. According to Inslaw, the DOJ had unlawfully altered the software and disseminated it to numerous government entities and foreign intelligence agencies without authorization. So they had backdoors into all these people's stuff now, whoever did that at the DOJ. So the DOJ, even back in the 80s, was doing dirty stuff, in my view. So you can look up the Inslaw affair. Trump warns will back Israeli strike on Iran over menacing nuclear threat. So they're trying to, again, do some, there's people right now protesting in Iran. There's the people are rising up, and I think it's been going on 5 or 6 days protests. So let's think about giving strength to the population of Iran right now and love to Iran, because they need help right now. Their people are trying to get free of a very repressive government that's really been there ever since in the 50s, when the United States, fomented a coup in Iran. That this country has been and had a lot of problems. Trump casually confirms first land strike on plant in Venezuela. We knocked that out. And they just went in and took Maduro. He's being brought back to New York City. Minnesotans complained to Rhino congressman years ago about Somalis. This is the response they got. Yeah, a lot of people were saying these people are doing scams. They're all over the place. It's obvious what they're doing. All you had to do was walk into one of those parks and try to go into one of those daycares and see what's going on. They're not even there, right? No one's there. And they got guys in the parking lot that are watching the facility to make sure that nobody who's not supposed to be there is there. Like when the guy Nick goes, that guy Nick, whatever his name is, who's doing his own independent journalism, this kid, he went in there and broke the story, kind of, right? Like, hey, where's all these daycare centers? Where's all the kids? I don't see any kids going in and out of here. And it turns out there's no kids there. There's nobody there. These are what they call like an LLC that's created that doesn't really exist. It's like a ghost company, right? Where you're getting money in, and it looks like on paper real that you're doing a real daycare center, but there's no daycare center there. There's nothing there, right? That's why these guys freaked out when they started to go ask for their papers and paperwork over the last year. They said, "Oh, we got somebody broke in, and we lost all our paperwork. It's gone. Sorry." Yeah, sure you did. These people are in big trouble because they got caught, and it's a huge network. Misspelled Minnesota daycare, quality leering. Trucks and children after viral fraud video. So there was no kids there. They can't even... It's supposed to be a quality learning center, and they spelled learning Learing with no N. Excuse me. So they fixed it. Ilhan Omar faces investigation after outrage over massive wealth gains and aid fraud in Minnesota. Yeah, it's your state. Minnesota's multi-million-dollar daycare fraud reportedly stretches back to 2014. Saw scammers leave U.S. with up to $1 million pop in cash. Yeah, look at the houses these people were living in, like multi-million dollars. Zoran Mamdani was sworn in as the New York City mayor below City Hall Park in a private ceremony at a shuttered subway stop. I wrote, why the secrecy? That's an odd place to do it. I've never seen that happen before, and I lived in New York for over 50 years. I'm in my 6th year of this reporting, right? I just turned 56 years old. I've about had enough. I guess you have too, right? We've all had enough of this struggle with this chaos loop we're stuck in. We're trying to break the matrix, right? We're trying to destroy the loops that we're stuck in. We're trying to energetically raise vibration to the point where the matrix has no choice but to destroy itself because it can't exist in that new vibration. What's going to happen when we finally either break the matrix, break the AI, or force the AI to capitulate to us? I'm not sure how we do that, unless we have good AI working on our behalf, maybe too, that's trying to disconnect some of this AI. If they are trying to, what Kimberly Goldwyn is talking about is so insane that it has to be, it probably has to be true. And in fact, what these people are trying to do is they're trying to crack the God particle. They're trying to use CERN to break apart the God particle. And they think that if they could do that, that they could then become a creator, co-creator like Source. But they don't have the Source energy from them that they access, right? They don't. Not the way Source does. And they'll never have access the way Source does to Source energy. Even if they somehow manage to break that particle apart, which I looked the God particle, right? Which they call, what was it, Higgs boson? Whatever. They're trying to break the God particle apart. The God particle, right? Higgs boson. Sometimes called the Higgs particle. It's an elementary particle in the standard model of particle physics produced by the quantum. This is beyond my pay grade. Excitation of the Higgs field. One of the fields in particle physics theory in the standard model. The Higgs particle is a massive scalar boson that couples to, interacts with particles whose mass arises from their interactions with the Higgs field. Has zero spin. And she was talking about Kim Goldwyn was talking about that there's this place, right, where, I forgot what she said it was called, where everything exists at once, right? And like that's the place where these people are trying to get to. Where everything that exists in all different timelines is all there in one time, right? But that's like, these people are trying to become the Source, but they can't be Source because their polarity is completely wrong from Source, right? It's not Source. They haven't given themselves over to Source, right? And they never will, because what these people want is power. And if you give yourself over to Source and you surrender, then you're not thinking about power anymore. You just want to be at your best self, right? Your best version of yourself, your highest level. We're trying to ascend into the next density. Zoran Mamdani leans on more Adams holdovers as top city hall posts still haven't been filled. So this guy didn't even fill his whole post, all the posts yet. I don't know what happened when he took office. 19 sex trafficking victims were rescued. 4 alleged pimps arrested in massive Southern California motel sting. That's good news, right? We're seeing a bunch of big stings go on where they're rescuing a lot of young children. California judge blocks release of Rob Reiner's and wife Michelle Reiner's autopsies. The Los Angeles Medical Examiner's Office previously confirmed the case was a homicide, listing the cause of death as multiple sharp force injuries in its public database, but the information has since been removed. So why did they not allow the autopsies to come out? Maybe they don't want to see how many times he stabbed them? I don't know. If you want me to speak about what my feeling is about this kid, is, well, look at what happens to a lot of these rich kids. They call them like Nepo babies, or, kids, stars, children. A lot of them end up having horrific drug problems, involvement in destructive behaviors, right? Whatever they may be, sex, drugs, risky behavior. It must be hard to have a famous father, and then what do you want to do? Like try to go into acting also? Probably not, right? Some of them try to, like Charlie Sheen and his brother Emilio Estevez, right? Were the son of Martin Sheen. Shocking unearthed footage shows parents pretending to drop kids off at a Minnesota daycare. So once the word got out, like, listen, we need some kids over here, quick. Like, we got people nosing around over here, and we don't have any kids coming in and out of this place. And there's like 15 different daycares in here. And they're all Somali, listed as Somali different daycares. Right. So these people were allowed to come into our country. We gave them a home right after their country was falling apart under Obama. And what did these people do? They set up criminal networks and ripped us off and rigged our voting system and rigged and stole government monies, taxpayer dollars, and stole it for themselves by setting up fake LLCs and fake daycare centers. And then trying to force your religion onto us on top of it. $5 billion in questionable rental assistance under Biden revealed, including to thousands of deceased tenants and non-citizens. Yeah. You're paying monies to people that are on the system that are dead. Who's getting all that money? They're going to a big fund and then you piecemeal it out to your buddies? That's a lot of money. You're talking about $5 billion. Just in rental assistance. What about all those hotel rooms that you apparently didn't get the best deals for? You could have been housing these people in $80 a night hotels out by the airport. Instead, you were putting them up in $200 a night hotel rooms in the middle of Midtown Manhattan for $250 a night, $300 a night. Who was banking all that excess cash? Who worked out the side deals behind? That's why Adams was getting indicted, right? Because he did all these side deals with people with no, you're not supposed to do deals like that in back rooms. You're supposed to get the best, prices for everything before you do contracts with people for the city. Another bourbon distiller files for bankruptcy as the sector collapses. Why is the sector collapsing? Because people are starting to realize it's a fucking poison. It's a refined poison. That's what they're giving you, right? Go look up the Government Alcohol Poisoning Program, 1925. You want some history about what your government will do to you if it wants to? Right? What's going on in 1925? Well, people are stealing industrial alcohols and using industrial types of alcohols to make their own different kinds of hooch, right? Different alcohols, and like bathtub gin, and people are putting gasoline and stuff in this stuff, and people are getting violently sick and dying. In fact, in New York, I think as many as 10,000 people died, right? Over time, drinking denatured alcohols before Prohibition ended. Here's a huge still in Michigan where they're making their own, stuff. There's people making breweries all over the different parts of the city. Because alcohol is illegal, right? And it's worth a lot of money. Right? These are the teetotalers. These are the people that for 20 years before this were saying we got to stop alcohol. It's destroying our societies. And they were actually right. Why do you think they gave it to the American Indians in such abundance? So that they would become addicted to it. And it would destroy their not only would it destroy their tribes, but it would destroy their connection with Mother Earth, right? More importantly, to the spirit world. To destroy their connection to their spirit guides and spirit animals, right? As well. So, And of course, during the whole time in the 20s, what's going on in Washington? Well, these guys are still getting their alcohol, the senators and congressmen. In fact, there's a guy whose office they find, who's on Capitol Hill right there, has a little room where all the orders go to him, and he fills the orders out during the day. It goes right into their trunks, and they don't even have to be seen with the alcohol at all. It's a whole system was set up that it's found out that these guys are doing it. And there's not a big hubbub about it. And yeah, okay, the guy goes to jail for a year, and then they just keep buying the same alcohol, right? So The whole time that prohibition's going on, most of the senators and congressmen, they're drinking alcohol. They don't give a fuck. And a lot of people are in Manhattan too, in New York City, where there was 25,000 different illegal speakeasies all over the city that were operating, from the fanciest ones to the ones in people's basements somewhere or something, right? Or some guy's apartment that is making bathtub gin or whatever. People are realizing that alcohol is a refined poison. And why am I paying to drink and poison myself when I could be trying some other drug or just not doing any drugs at all? Or, maybe I like to smoke marijuana or some other thing. I'm not encouraging you to do any other drugs. I'm just saying people are realizing that, like, alcohol is a particularly destructive drug, as most recreational drugs are. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd rather smoke marijuana than drink alcohol. I had done both for many, many years, and started to realize that mixing the two of them together wasn't doing me any good. And I would having hangovers that lasted, after you turn 35 years old, those hangovers start to last a couple of days, then they last 3 days, sometimes longer. And so it's like, is it really worth it to be drinking this much and I have to pay for it and then I feel like shit for 2 or 3 days? Not really. Daycare is accused of multi-million-dollar fraud, shifts blame for revealing mistake above its front door as kids are suddenly trucked in. So they fixed the learning center's sign was wrong. I mean, how can you have a learning center where the sign itself is misspelled? Does that give me any confidence in your learning skills and how your teaching skills are if you can't even spell learning? It's the Leering Center, actually. It's Leering, Leering. This is where we teach you how to leer. What does leer mean? Leering. Looking or behaving in a way that shows sexual interest, especially when this is not wanted. So you don't want the Leering Center. No, it's the Learning Center. I was watching an interesting video and I was talking about how they stopped teaching the meaning of words, where words come from. I think it's called what was it called? Etymology or excuse me. The wheel ruts of modern English. Etymology, the history of a linguistic form such as words, right? By tracing its development since its earliest recorded occurrence. So it's, how do we use words? What are words used to do? Well, partially, if you think about cursive, right? What's cursive? It's a form of script, right? Where you're writing in a different. You're not printing your words. It's in cursive. Well, what's cursive? Well, it's used to put a curse on you. In other words, words can be used to cast spells, right? Words are powerful things that come out of your mouth that have meaning. Sometimes meanings you don't know or aren't aware of. Like if you ever see these people who, I used to be one of them, was constantly denigrating themselves. Oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I do that? Maybe you make a mistake. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Why did I do that? You keep saying that over and over. I'm this thing, right? If you say I am, it's a positive. It always needs to be, like I've been telling you all these years, the I am attribution is extremely something that you need to say, and only say something positive, because if you say I am and then something negative, then you'll manifest that negativity. Which is how we were kept in that lack mentality for so long, because we just kept feeling that we were at lack and we were not abundant. And if you feel you are not abundant, then you are not abundant. And you will have nothing. And the money will just fall away from you and it will never come near you, right? Because you think that you don't have. When the abundance is all around you. All you have to do is accept it and know that you already have it. And then it will come and be in your pockets again. I know that sounds strange. It took me half a lifetime to realize that lesson. Right? It's almost like when people say you got to fake it till you make it, right? It's kind of like that, right? You kind of have to convince yourself that you are it all. You already are it all, right? You already have it all. You already are it all, even though you don't have, right? at this moment because you don't believe that you have. And that's because you've been raised like many other people, including myself, in a lack mentality, a mentality of lack, where, there's different scars that are put on us through history, right? If you have your grandparents probably, or your great-grandparents, some of you lived through a time called the Depression, which was right after, of course, Prohibition ended. And then what happened? The whole country went into a depression, right? Which was manufactured. And what did you have? A criminal element that got exceptionally rich through that decade and then had all kinds of disposable cash to do whatever they wanted to go somewhat legitimate after that, right? Patel is planning a permanent closure of FBI's Hoover headquarters building. Wasn't this the same building where this unreal sum they were spending like $1 billion to rehab it? Where did all that money go? Was that some kind of another sieve where they were stealing it all? Because now you're saying you're not going to use the building at all. Well, you just spent $1 billion rehabbing it. Why'd you do that? You could have just junked the building then and saved all that money. Who stole that money? I wrote, didn't the FBI spend an unreal sum of money trying to rehab the old building? Where did all that money go? Wasn't it over $1 billion? It's gone. Israel becomes the first nation to recognize the Republic of Somaliland. Is that Somalia? I mean, what's Somaliland? I don't never heard of that. Okay. Protests erupt across Iran over country's currency plunged to record low. Monday's protests were the biggest since 2022 in response to 22-year-old woman dying while in police custody after being arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab properly. And they got people that will just arrest you for not having a hijab on. What kind of society is this? I don't want to wear a hijab. What if I'm not, there's women in this country that are not Muslim, right? There's Jewish women in Iraq and men who don't want to wear a hijab, the women, right? If they're from that religion, I shouldn't have to. It should be only by choice. If I'm happen to be a Muslim woman and I want to wear a hijab or a burqa or whatever it is and cover my face and parts of my face, and that should be not mandatory. Bondi announces that 60 people have been convicted of fraud in 4 Minnesota scams so far. Minnesota has been accused of allowing widespread fraud schemes to infiltrate their publicly funded programs such as the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program and steal millions of taxpayer dollars. Well, that seems to be what they keep doing. They let a bunch of illegal aliens in from wherever it is. It doesn't matter what country. This just happened to be Somalia. Michigan is inundated with Muslims from a bunch of different countries, including Somalia also. If you go to parts of Michigan, Dearborn, where they're playing, the call to prayer in some of these places 5 times a day, starting at 5 or 6 in the morning. That's a lot of people. Is this thing beginning to become a conspiracy, a RICO case? This thing already is a RICO. Because I think these people are all connected. How they all get the same idea? Somebody's running this thing. New York adds speed bumps to social media with tobacco-style warning labels inviting litigation. The Empire State has faced skepticism from judges when it comes to regulating speech online or in the real world, but that hasn't stopped Governor Kathy Hochul and AG Letitia James from pushing the envelope. Social media is a poison. It can kill you, yeah. Do we need a warning label like the same as tobacco? I think that's a little much. I think that, at this point, most people know the ills of social media. I think the biggest problem I have with it now is like these TikTok and these Reels things that they're having on Facebook and on like Instagram. And basically it's these short videos, like 20, 30 seconds, a minute or two, where they just keep looping on different videos where it's shortening your attention span to the point where you're just a complete idiot almost, really, where you can't sit and think logically anymore because your mind is sort of like programmed into like wanting that quick endorphin rush of those videos, like 20, 30 seconds, something funny, something this, something whatever it is, right? Something that makes you laugh, something ridiculous, some AI bullshit. Blakeman tells Mamdani to fire activists from transition team over cop-hating killers. Comments disgusting. So this guy keeps putting in, people that don't seem to like one certain group of people, which I have a problem with. I don't like the people he's putting in already. We saw silver going up and down a lot last week. I think it was in the 72, 73 range. Yeah, it was up $1.21 on Friday, 73.54. Gold is at 4,347.60 an ounce. It was up 13.80. And platinum was going up and down like crazy too, right? We saw that. Still over 2,155 though. Platinum's at. Palladium's at 1662.10. That's up, but that's going to be another double. Watch, this will be over 3,000 probably sometime next year. They're all going to run. Like I said before, even get yourself anything, man. Get a piece of copper. Get a copper block, anything right now. That you have your money that's not just in cash. That would be what I'd be doing. That's what I'm doing. Zelensky admits Ukraine can't win without U.S. support. Silver was up $5.70 to 78.56. That was 4 days ago. It hit $80, and there was some resistance, because what's happening is that they can't make the silver, the physical deliveries now anymore. In some cases, when people want physical delivery of silver, they don't have enough silver to give it to them. I'm hearing there's shortages in places like India and China where they want to buying it up like crazy. I mean, if there's they're saying there's a $7 spread between silver and the Comex, between the Comex and the Hang Seng. There's people playing around in that $7 spread and making a fucking fortune because they're buying it cheaper, the contract in the Comex, and they're taking physical delivery of it over in Hang Seng where it's $8 or $7 more. Well, that's unfair. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. So they're taking the physical delivery of the silver overseas, and it's $8, $7 more than when you bought it from. That's a beautiful thing, especially if I'm a billionaire doing that. You're talking about massive profit levels. And it's guaranteed, because I know there's a spread of $7 between the two markets. That should be illegal. That's why I said these people are fucking exposed, because now you're like the emperor has no clothes, as they say. The scam is exposed for all to see. You've been doing shit like this for years. Zelensky admits Ukraine can't win. Bad timing for Somali-born daycare owner running for Minnesota legislature. This guy's got his own. He's got his own daycare too. He's looking to get massive cash, right? He's going to keep stealing. He thought he was going to be able to keep stealing from the system. So I said, apologies. George Bush Sr. ran for president in 1988. We remember that, right? He served from 88 to 92, and then of course we were stuck with Clinton, right? For 8 years. I just had the dates a little off. I was saying, so in 1989, if that is when the Trump meeting on the yacht occurred, right? The 1989 meeting with Maxwell. It was after Bush was already president, but they were, I think, still trying to fill his cabinet out fully, right? So they were meeting, I think, part of that meeting was to maybe fill some of those other positions up. Was Trump possibly being considered for something at that time? Maybe, right? He had been flirting with running for president for decades, Trump. But not at that time he hadn't. That's when he sort of first, maybe early on. But if in fact Trump is with Epstein as early as 84, that's much earlier than I ever remembered ever seeing or hearing that they were been together. And that opens up a whole other can of worms if that's the case, right? Which means that he had known him much longer than he let on. He had known him over 20 years. Peru's copper output could double with large-scale projects, so the copper price could, who knows what that'll do to copper. Myanmar holds first election since 2021 coup. So there's finally having an actual election in Myanmar. I don't know. Are they using Dominion voting systems? Hopefully not. Are they using Smartmatic? Hopefully not. All child care payments to Minnesota are frozen amid daycare fraud scandal as Tim Walz is targeted. So it looks like Walz is in deep trouble. This could go all the way back to Ilhan Omar as well. There was another massive train derailment in Kentucky that's now leaking dangerous chemicals in some parts of Kentucky where I'm not sure. Is this another land grab? I was watching Ari at home. So let's see, in 2026, friends. Now we're in 2026. But are we really? Because I've been watching different pundits and people talk about the fact that one of the popes changed the calendars back in, like, I don't know, 15 or 1600s. I think it was in the 1500s, right? The pope changed the calendars. And at one time, all the months had 28 days. Every single month had 28 days. Pope changed the calendar. I don't see which one he was again. 1752. In that year, today Americans are used to a calendar with a year based the Earth's rotation around the sun, with months having no relationship to the cycles of the moon, and New Year's Day falling on January 1st. However, that system was not adopted in England and its colonies until 1752. The changes implemented that year have created challenges for historians and genealogists working with early colonial records, since it's sometimes hard to determine whether information was entered according to then current English calendar or the new style calendar we use today. The Julian calendar. In 45 BC, Julius Caesar ordered a calendar consisting of 12 months based on a solar year. This calendar employed a cycle of 3 years of 365 days, followed by a year of 366 days, leap year. When first implemented, the Julian calendar also moved the beginning of the year from March 1st to January 1st. However, following the fall of the Roman Empire in the 5th century, the new year was gradually realigned to coincide with Christian festivals until by the 7th century, Christmas Day marked the beginning of the new year in many countries. So the dates were totally different, right? The years were different. It was measured differently. We're measuring the years now the wrong way since 1752 is my point. Every month should have 28 days. Eric Adams wants New York City Commission to reshape primary sanctuary status, and Mamdani may not be able to stop it. Well, Mamdani just rescinded everything that he had done since he was indicted, actually. So he basically said that once you got the indictment onto you, everything that you did from that point on is null. So I'm going to have to take a quick break, guys. My coffee ran dry. I'm about 1:12 hour and 12 minutes in. I'm doing pretty well. I'm trying to impart a larger pieces of information to you now and show you that some of the Epstein documents are getting pretty interesting. I could see why they wanted us not have these come out Trump's first term. And in fact, this one allegation didn't come until 2020, where a girl is following up saying, how come nobody's getting back to me about my allegations? If this tip line is a tip line, you should have had somebody get back to me again after the first contact. I've not heard anything. Why not? So friends, I'll be right back in one moment. I hope you're doing well. My name is Ash. This is my news punditry show I've been doing since August of 2020. If you want to see the earlier shows, you'll have to go to NP News on the link I'll include it in the show where my YouTube channel came back up, and it has a lot of the earlier videos I've done that aren't on Rumble, actually, so you can check those out there. It's NP News on YouTube, but it's hard to find it. So I hope you're well. I hope you had a good New Year and holidays with your family. I hope you're doing well. 2025 was a rough year for me, and I'm just hoping that 2026 is a better year for humanity in general, because it's getting really tiresome doing these news punditry shows, and I think it's probably not helping anymore. And if it's not helping, I don't want to do it. But I do want to get to the end of the story to show for the historical record really what happened here in a way that makes sense. That's the truth. That's not somebody just out here. You know, the more I watch these pundits just making all kinds of money on selling silver coins and doing all this stuff, it just makes me more and more disgusted. And on top of it, they're lying to us and misinforming us. So That's part of the reason that I started doing my own punditry show, because I thought I could do it better and I could do it for free and I could do it better than these people, just to show everybody that, hey, you can do it for free and you could do it better than these guys who are making all kinds of money, who have fancy sets, and they still don't have the data that I've been giving you, right? They don't have some of that data, and they don't want to touch it because they know it hurts the movie that they're trying to show you. They keep telling you you're living in the movie. You're not living in a movie. You're living in an AI generated matrix that these people think they control fully, and they don't. So friends, I hope you're well. I'm going to go get this coffee. I'll be right back in one moment. In the meantime, you can do some sit-ups, push-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, thanks guys for that break. I really needed that. I'm back. And it's just got me thinking. There's so many different pieces of information swirling around right now. I mean, I'm not even thinking much about Venezuela. That's like a back burner story, right? The bigger story is what's coming out in the Epstein docs about Trump in this particular document, right? Why was this allegation never looked into if it was, this is almost 40 years ago, right? 41 years ago. 42 years ago. And whatever happened to this 13-year-old woman's story, how old she's now, let's see, she's now, what, in her 50s, close to 60 years old? Whatever happened to her? Was she disposed of? Along with her child? Is that how her story died and nobody ever talked about it again? Because this is her second time calling the tip line saying, why hasn't anybody gotten back to me? Who was the person I talked to? Did these people cut off and get to her first and pretend that they were the FBI, but they really weren't? I don't know. Eric Adams wants New York City Commission to reshape primary sanctuary status, and Mamdani may not be able to stop it. Well, you got to first get rid of the sanctuary city policies. We can't be a sanctuary city anymore. I'm assuming that Mamdani is going to do nothing to stop that. He's going to continue. And he's going to try to stop ICE at every turn when they come in here, if they come in. You notice they're not coming in right now. Death of a woman married to Jill Biden's ex-husband is a murder investigation. Stricken daughter says after cops were called out to domestic dispute at Delaware home. So that's somebody that Joe Biden used to be married to. Of course, Jill Biden used to work for Joe Biden, if you remember, before his wife was killed by an alleged drunk driver, although some people think she was drunk at the wheel when she got into that accident. Trump's emergency wrecking ball team aims to demolish a dozen more D.C. buildings as the East Wing lies in ruins. I hadn't heard about that. They're talking about 12 other buildings in this area that they want to knock down. And the question is why? Is there a tunnel system there? I'm assuming is he trying to destroy the tunnel system? But don't you have to expose it first? Why is all these other buildings being torn down, and what's the purpose of that? Somali Congresswoman Ilhan Omar facing probe over how her family wealth rocketed from near nothing to up to $30 million in just 1 year. How the fuck do you think? She's taking a piece of that money, right? You think she's going to let a big fraud like that go on with her own people in her own state without getting a piece of it? The biggest piece? I'm assuming she got one of the bigger pieces of that, whatever that was. And if there's a bunch of different people doing it, then you just times the profit by how many there are. 67% of increase in demand for rentals due to foreign-born skyrocketing prices, HUD. The increase took place between 2022 and 24. So there's all this increase for demand in rentals because where are these illegal aliens going to live? It's almost impossible for them to rent an apartment. Like I said, right? You got to have a fake social security card. You got to have a fake license. You got to have a fake history. And even then, they're not going to probably rent to you in most places. How are these people finding apartments? I was saying that a long time ago. When you don't have any documentation. The incident that prompted Trump to ban Epstein from Mar-a-Lago spa. This is not accurate, right? It's something else here because, first of all, Epstein is not a member of Mar-a-Lago Spa. Ghislaine Maxwell is, and he's allowed to go as a guest of her to the spa. Now apparently he's somehow convincing some of the girls from the spa to come over to his house and give him a private, massage. But first of all, if you're I'm almost positive if you're a masseuse in one of these types of a spa like this, you have to be over the age of 18 at least. In most states, you can't be under the age of 18 and working in a spa at all, I wouldn't think. Although you can work at 16 in some states, like part-time. So maybe some of these girls were like 16 and he came across them in the spa. We don't know the exact thing of why he gets banned. Or is it because of the real estate deal that he takes that property away from Epstein because he doesn't want Epstein to become just like him and have his own big estate and have his own big parties. He doesn't want that. It's too close to where he lives in his world. How is someone who's not a dues-paying member of a club getting home treatments done by technicians from the club spa? That's special treatment for a non-dues-paying member, in my opinion. That doesn't happen in these fancy places. I've been in these kinds of places before. I've known people that work in fancy gyms and spas. I've worked in fancy gyms. This shit doesn't happen like this. I'm not saying that private things aren't done between certain masseuses who are an adult and a private client. Yeah, they might go to a rich client's house, sure, but these aren't 16-year-old girls doing these massages in spas. That's illegal. You have to have a massage license and go through all kinds of courses first. So I don't think that's what's happened. I think that he's got Ghislaine Maxwell poaching girls from all over the fucking place trying to find him anything underage, right? She's going to malls and talking with all kinds of underage girls. She's the purveyor. Maybe they were poaching some out of the club and Trump found out about it and didn't like it, but I don't think those girls were 16 years old. U.S. orders embassies in Western Hemisphere to report on human rights abuses caused by mass migration. The department said mass migration has wrought havoc on America before President Donald Trump secured the border, highlighting its contribution to ongoing issues in the U.S. like the opioid epidemic. So that's why he's saying he wants the U.S. embassies in the Western Hemisphere to report on human rights abuses caused by mass migration. I have just heard that the physical price of silver in the UAE at one point was trading at over $90 an ounce for silver. How is that possible when it's trading in the high 70s here, that means that the spread in the UAE is even higher than this Hang Seng index spread. In other words, there's a possible $12 spread in the price of silver from the United States to the UAE, which means some people are buying this contracts over here again and then going to the, say, United Arab Emirates and saying, hey, I want to take physical payment of the gold, of the silver here. Why? Well, it's because it's worth $12 more an ounce than what I bought it for over there. I'm going to fucking make a fortune. That's fucking why. Isn't that beautiful? But nobody knows about that in the United States, so we're getting taken advantage of. Somebody's being allowed to skew the price of silver in a massive way between overseas markets. Who's allowing that? And if whoever is allowing it should be removed. And the price of silver should be the same in all these markets. To the cent. To the fucking cent. Not $8 or $12 a part. What kind of nonsense is this? These people should all be removed. Whoever's running silver markets right now for the last, whoever, the Comex and all these people should all be removed. In all these different localities, because they're allowing there to be a massive silver spread in the price that shouldn't exist. Washington Somali-run daycare took $210,000 in taxpayer funds in 2025, but no child care business appears to exist. Report, I don't have child care. So this is happening in other states now. This is not, this is a big thing, right? But Is it bigger than the fraud that's going on in, say, New York State over time? Probably not. It probably pales in comparison to New York, Chicago, LA, North Dakota, Doug Burgum. Well, there's all kinds of stuff going on, right? Colombia president says the U.S. strike in Venezuela struck a cocaine plant. But is this really the country that's bringing the majority of the drugs into ours? No, right? No, it's not. Not even close. What about Mexico? How much cocaine is created in Colombia and sent north? That's the classic place where it's made. Why aren't we hitting them? How about Mexico, who allows the stuff to all these people to flow through their country into ours and doesn't do anything about it? Why wouldn't you take them over? That's a more strategic maneuver that would move for the United States. It creates a massive more land for us. It gets rid of a government that has been historically at odds with our government for varying reasons. What would you do with all the people, though, the Mexican populace? That's the question if you take it over, right? That's what you have in Venezuela now saying, what do we do? All these people are cheering, we're free now, but are you? You're being ruled by Hegseth and, and the other guy from Trump's cabinet. And Trump's being run by the paperclip Nazis. That's obvious. He's definitely Black Sun. He's doing everything side by side with Netanyahu. He's going along with everything. He's pushing back against Iran. He's threatening to bomb Iran if they hurt their citizens. Controversial CDC panel to review aluminum salts used in many vaccines. There should be no aluminum salts in any vaccine. They should be removed immediately. Period. Marla Maples chilling Epstein warning as she feared his growing sway over Trump. So he was with Epstein, at least now we know back in '84 if this young woman's allegation is true. And I believe it is true. I mean, that should have been on the cover of every major, right? Did they not read through all the Epstein files yet because there's so many millions of files being dropped? That's probably why. But I heard people talking about this on Benjamin Fulford was talking about it. So if this document is in fact fake, it doesn't appear to be fake. It's on the Justice Department.gov's website. So Maples didn't like Epstein either. She's smart. She knew he was a bad seed. Did she know what her husband was doing, though? I don't think so. Minnesota Somali-run daycare bizarrely reports all their important documents about child care were stolen in mysterious break-in. Because remember, Trump's allowed to be a billionaire. He should have actually gone under after the Taj Mahal went bankrupt in the late 80s, early 90s. He lost a ton of money on those casinos. They just drove him into massive bankruptcy. And of course, he's bailed back out by the Rothschilds, by Deutsche Bank. And he's bailed out multiple times. In other words, most people would have just been allowed they would have faded into obscurity. Yeah, he was some rich guy's son and he lost his daddy's money, right? Minnesota authorities knew about Somali theft in 2015 and did nothing. Charges were dismissed, disqualified from billing the state for only 2 years. So they knew about this 11 years ago they knew about it. 10 years ago they knew about it. And nobody did a fucking thing. Because they're all involved, right? They're all getting a piece of it. That's why. It's just like the thing with Epstein, right? It's like, how come nobody turns this guy in? Look at the monstrous shit this guy's doing. He's protected. He's got carte blanche. He could basically do whatever he wants. And back then, there was no cell phones, man. There was no people getting, illicit photos of people like how now you can get all kinds of photos of people all over the place, right? When they're doing stuff, they get caught a lot. Back then, there was nobody, unless it was paparazzi. And there's no paparazzi on Lake Michigan. Let's check out Lake Michigan. Does that have an island in it? I think it does. One of them does. Michigan is one of the 5 Great Lakes. It's the second largest by volume. It's the only Great Lake entirely within the United States. It's 118 miles wide and 307 miles long. It has 1,600 miles of shoreline. Yeah, there's some islands in here, right? There's one here. There's one here. There's one over here. There's something down here. There's a bunch of stuff, right? These are old smuggling routes and stuff too. So, you know, there's all kinds of small little islands, tributary areas where all kinds of shit could go on you don't know about. Samurai-wielding vigilante offers San Francisco squatter removal service. I like this guy. I want to start hanging out with him. Wonder how that's going to work. This dude busts down the door. He's got a freaking samurai sword out. You think you're going to want to stay? And he says, I'm moving the fuck in. How you doing? And I'm a violent person, by the way. I have antisocial tendencies. You might want to leave. I got a samurai sword. What up? Here he is. ASAP squatter removal CEO James Jacobs claims he has had a 95% success rate with his controversial approach to ridding vacant Bay Area homes. He's got a sword. What else has this guy got? He's got some like ballistic gloves on. Maybe a smoke grenade. Is that what he's got? No matter how many there are, how smart they think they are, how dangerous they may be, we always get them out. He's got over 2 decades worth of martial arts experience. Said he comes armed with a slew of professional-grade tactical gear, including swords, rifles, smoke grenades, tear gas, and full body armor. Yeah, fuck it. That's how I'd bust in. Or you can just get the guy to, you know, basically what other people are doing is, is if you get the tenant to give you a temporary lease, or the owner to give you a lease, right, for however much time. Excuse me. And then you could basically move in. Michael Rappaport launched a mayoral bid, declares war on Zoran the Moron. I got a cough. Sorry, guys. Hang on. It's a little dry in here. I apologize. Let me just take one quick break and I'll be right back. Thanks, guys. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. I had a bad coughing fit go on there. That sometimes happens when I feel like I'm being like spiritually attacked, or if I'm talking about certain subjects. Or it just could be it's dry, very dry in the room. I got all the windows shut, so I apologize if I was coughing a lot. I do apologize. Iran is grinded to a standstill as protesters take to the streets and crowds chant death to Khomeini. So Rappaport's launching a mayoral bid. Here's another person that's not, you know, probably shouldn't be mayor. Just like Mamdani shouldn't be mayor. So, Iran, let's pray for Iran that they can get free. I mean, if you had told me all these years later that Maduro would still be a president after what he had done and the world didn't do anything about it, the world just sat there and watched this guy starve his people to death and did literally nothing. Zero. Trump pulling National Guard from Chicago, Portland, and L.A. warns we will come back. Why is he pulling them? You didn't finish. Chicago still has gangs all over the place, no? Chicago gangs not dealt with, I wrote. Still intact. Infrastructure not touched. You didn't do anything to stop the gangs. What about Crips and Bloods that are in L.A. that are doing damage? What about other gangs? What about cartel groups? What about Trinidad, what about MS-13 gangs? You telling me Chicago, you're going to have to go back in? Well, why'd you leave? New York City's horse carriages must get city vet inspection or have license revoked. Yeah, some of these horses are well cared for and some of them aren't. That's just how it is. And you see every once in a while that one of them collapses and dies in the street because they work them till they die. They don't care. They work them to death. They don't usually let them retire unless they get so old they can't do it anymore. Jailed Sean Diddy Combs pulls $61.5 million Beverly Hills freak-off mansion from the market once again. No one's buying at that price. Or is there another reason? The tunnels aren't closed off yet? What's the reason? Well, this guy's still got all his money, right? His kids are living fat off his money right now while he rots in jail, right? But nothing ever came out about the freak-offs, who was there. The videos never came out. We never saw nothing. Nothing. Somali-run Minneapolis daycare claims enrollment documents were stolen amid exploding fraud scandal. Yeah, somebody stole it all. Sorry, we don't have any documents now. Really? Wow. Why would someone steal your documents? That's not worth anything. Rappaport launches mayoral bid. I already doubled that up, sorry. The destruction of Mamdani, why the Marxist Messiah won't survive 2026. So I just wrote, one can hope. PJ Media. Yeah, let's hope he doesn't. I mean, I think he'll probably go down. I think he'll just probably go out at some point because he just won't know how to do the job. He'll mismanage it so badly that the city will just fall apart. It can't run itself. Zoran Mamdani fans disappointed by disastrous block party with no food and no bathrooms. So I wrote, there's no halal food cart? How could there not be a free halal cart at this fucking thing? Right? There's one on every other fucking street corner. You mean there's no halal food cart there or any food cart at all? You had $3.5 million in your chest. You couldn't pay for a couple of food carts for free to roll up and give out free food? Why not? And why didn't you put up any public bathrooms for these people? Where are they supposed to go to the bathroom? Where's their kids supposed to go? Piss in the street? Why? If you're a man of the people, why'd you get sworn in a private ceremony in an abandoned subway station deep beneath City Hall? Is that some kind of satanic ritual you went through? Is some kind of Masonic ritual involved there? I don't know. This guy has this big street party, which no other mayor ever does for their victory, and he doesn't even have the common sense to give any food. Excuse me. Socialist Zoran Mamdani's wife, Rama Duwaji, appears to wear $630 boots in swearing-in ceremony. She's wearing $600 boots, right? That's just an amazing amount of money to spend on clothes. Excuse me. Small Business Administration says 6,900 Minnesota borrowers suspended over suspected fraud. I think I'm losing my voice, guys. Sorry. Whew. If I am being attacked, I need protection. So all these borrowers are getting suspended over fraud. These borrowers were approved for 7,900 PPP and EIDL loans worth approximately $400 million, the SBA Administrator Loeffler said. So Mamdani has revoked orders issued after Adams' indictment. The only expectation I seek to reset is that of small expectations. Excuse me. New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani said in his inaugural address. It's really rough up here, the weather right now, guys. It's cold. It's just been freezing a lot of days, and it's dry, and it's miserable. Trump vows to intervene if Iran kills protesters. The president said the U.S. was locked and loaded and ready to go in a post on Truth Social. So he's ready to go to war with Iran. Sorry about that, guys. Just had to open that door, outer door. Trump targets Minnesota fraud allegations, says we're going to get to the bottom of all those. Trump criticized alleged Minnesota fraud during New Year's Eve's remarks in Mar-a-Lago. Hamas admits top leaders' deaths, vows to fight with their fingernails. Trump says he aced his cognitive exam for the third straight time. The White House doctors have just reported that he's in perfect health, but is he? Why isn't the public shown this test in real time, or even after the fact on video with timestamp? The other thing is Trump is taking 325 milligrams of aspirin a day, which is a massive amount. Most people, if you take a baby aspirin, that's 88 milligrams a day, I think, which is the suggested, if you want to do aspirin every day, which is going to make your arteries, which is going to make you bleed. Some people think, oh, it thins the blood and it's good for you, but I stopped taking baby aspirin, but he's taking 4 times that dose, right? He's taking a 324 milligram dose of every day, which is a very high dose. And apparently his McDonald's order is a quarter pounder with cheese, or a quarter pounder, a Big Mac, a Filet-O-Fish, and a fries. That's 3 entrees. You're eating the amount, that's giving you huge amounts of salt and all kinds of shit that's not bad for you. Somalis allegedly placed a bounty on Nick Shirley's head after he exposed him. That's the guy I was talking about, Nick Shirley. He's the one that exposed a lot of this, and now they're threatening to say, we're gonna take you out like Kirk. News Nation reporter finds assisted living facility funded by Americans is just a single-family home. Owner indicted in feeding our future, still raking in $49 million from Minnesota. So Minnesota's turned into a massive fraud. It's also highlighting that there's other states that have a massive fraud in it, like New York and California, that has even more. This line from Zoran Mamdani's inauguration speech should terrify freedom-loving Americans. The line was, quote, "We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism." Right, which means we don't want you to be an individual anymore. No. We don't want that. We don't want to celebrate that. In fact, what we want to celebrate is us all being together in the same collective, working towards that same goal. Right. But does that mean that I can't own any land at all? See, that's where socialism, this argument of, well, what is really socialism? Does it allow the ownership of land at all? Or does just the collective own everything? Because some people don't want to live in a world where they can't have their own piece of land. That's what's made America so attractive to a lot of people, is that you can come here, work hard, save up, and maybe buy your own piece of land in your house or whatever, right? A ranch, whatever you want. You want a big piece of land, you can go to places like Arizona or Nevada and buy 40 or 100 acres and go have your own little fiefdom if you want. If you have enough money and wherewithal and how to make it and how to do it. Some people don't want to work as part of a collective and have all their work go into the collective's pockets and not their own pockets. See, there's a problem with that because America is sort of made on a capitalist cycle, and while that's an imperfect way of doing things, also, it's. I think a lot of people would say it's a better way of doing things than a socialist society, because that's going to take away the land and certain companies from these people who run them and let everyone else, the whole culture or the whole collective run them. But what does the collective know about doing that? And how is the collective compensated for that? Some people don't want to have the want of collectivism. They like rugged individualism. That's what built this nation in a lot of ways, right? But it also got built on, unfortunately, the subjugation of indigenous and other cultures, right? In other words, yeah, for any one of these societies to work, I'm going to have to, one, subjugate somebody to make it work. Right? Of course, the communist says, no, nobody will be subjugated. We're all going to have the same. Nobody's going to have any extra. Which is the opposite of individualism, right? Mamdani signs executive order revoking Adams' orders since indictment. So, all executive orders issued on or after September the 26th, 2024, and in effect on December the 31st, 2025, are hereby revoked. The executive order reads. So he just revoked all the executive orders that Adams made for the past year, pretty much. That could be a substantial amount of things. Because of since the indictment. In other words, he's saying you were indicted for a crime. So I have to now nullify everything that you did because you're considered, in my mind, a criminal from that point on. Massey balks at Trump threat to defend Iranian protesters. He further insisted that Trump would need congressional authorization to launch any strikes on Iran, and opined that Trump's threat was more about geopolitics and economic leverage than any human rights issue. Well, really? He didn't need any authorization to just go into Venezuela and take its leader out, allegedly. I thought you have to get congressional approval for that. Apparently not. Zelensky picks military intelligence head as new chief of staff. I had a meeting with Kirilo Budanov and offered him the role of the head of the office of the president of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said. When will Zelensky step down, I wrote. He's in an illegal third unelected term. Apparently, right? They didn't even have elections for him this time. Legacy media silent on Mamdani's Nazi salute despite wall-to-wall coverage of Elon Musk for same gesture. AOC, who gave the welcome message at the Mamdani inauguration, said in regards to Musk's gesture, "We hate Nazis." It sort of looked like you did give it, though, right? Do you hate Nazis? Mamdani is exactly who we thought he was. Yeah. He's going to do exactly what we thought he was going to do. He's going to keep putting in people that nobody wants, that have no experience, that are going to piss everybody off, and they're going to do a shit job. FBI thwarts ISIS terror attack. Chilling details of Teen Jihad's plot against Christians and his fatal mistake. Trump's jaw-dropping McDonald's order goes viral amid health alarm. I mean, if you're eating a Big Mac with a quarter pounder and a fillet of fish, that's like 1,700 calories or more. That's just like a full day's worth of eating in one meal, right? That's why this guy's morbidly obese almost. I mean, I can only imagine what his cholesterol levels must be. Huge. This stuff is filled with salt and all kinds of bad stuff. Trump's net worth doubles in 1 year as he plays for richest presidency in history. The Suns are doing well too, right? Real well. Mamdani's mother is born in India. She's now saying she's the mother of New York City. I'm going to be the mother of New York City, Mira Nair said. Well, you're not. As far as I'm concerned, you're not. I don't even consider your son to be the mayor of the city, actually. Epstein files data dump file number 25010 shows an allegation of a 13-year-old girl who was pregnant and allegedly being trafficked by her, who I thought her father at the time, but it was her uncle, and to Jeffrey Epstein. This girl alleges that her baby was disposed of and it was witnessed by Donald Trump. That's in the document that we just described to you, right? We've already followed you through it. And it's right there, Infanticide, right? This crime occurred sometime in 1984 between May and September on Lake Michigan. Donald Trump witnessed infanticide during Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking crimes? DOJ documents share chilling details. So there was an MSN article about it. I was surprised this didn't get picked up more thoroughly. But this was live mint. Donald Trump witnessed infanticide during Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking crimes? DOJ documents shared chilling details. A new batch of Epstein files were released on Tuesday by the U.S. Justice Department, which contained numerous references to President Donald Trump. In one such file, a complaint received by the FBI exposes chilling allegations about the current U.S. president. The latest files released by the DOJ contains reams of previously unseen material. From the investigations conducted into Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex trafficker who died by suicide in a jail in 2019. According to the file released by the DOJ, the complainant reached out to the FBI on March 8th of 2020 alleging she was a victim of sex trafficking and was trafficked by her uncle and Jeffrey Epstein in 1984. During the incident, the victim was 13 years old and was pregnant. She alleged that her newborn daughter was murdered and disposed of during the time because I gave birth to her while in the middle of the sex trafficking ordeal, quote unquote. The victim, whose name has been blurred from the documents to protect her identity, reached out to the FBI to find the details of an NYPD detective who she claims called her a few days before the murder happened between May and September of '84. She goes on to provide chilling details of the incident regarding the disposal of the newborn child. She said that the girl's body was dumped into Lake Michigan from a yacht naming President Donald Trump as a witness to the incident and claiming he was present during the incident. A detective from NYPD FBI Sex Trafficking Task Force called me. Right, we already went over the document. I just wanted to show you that it was picked up, the story, by LiveMint and some online sources, but not much. I mean, it wasn't on ABC, NBC. Yes, Mamdani is a commie. Will the news outlets that insisted he wasn't apologize now? PJ Media. GOP lawmakers demand Governor Hochul root out Minnesota-style fraud with independent audit. So there's massive fraud in New York. Is Hochul going to root it out? Probably not, because it's happened under her watch. And Cuomo's. Trump says Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, wife captured after large-scale strikes. Video shows Venezuela's night sky engulfed in flames after U.S. strikes, capture of dictator Maduro. So it looks like they went in with Delta Force. DOJ official warned Seattle mayor to leave journalists alone after she accused extremist influencers of harassing Somali child care providers. They're not harassing Somali child care providers. There is no Somali child care in this place. It's a scam. I don't think there's any real child care places almost at all. The majority of them look like they're a scam, at least in this particular area where Nick Shirley was. He had it right. How many of those exist all over New York? There's probably dozens. And New York would be even harder to find it because you can spread them all over the place, right? They're not all in one car park like this one was, where they're easy to all find and say, oh, you're just doing it all in this one area. Maduro captured by U.S. Army Elite's Delta Force unit in a daring dead-of-night helicopter swoop. Caroline Levitt calls out Zohran Mamdani's wife as White House quits playing nice. Yeah, why are you wearing $650 shoes? There's people starving to death in this place. I thought you people weren't about having all this capitalist, all these assets and all these things. I thought you're for collectivism. Why are you wearing such expensive shoes then? It's a brawl world after all. Muslims kick off 2026 like the barbarians they are. PJ Media. That's not my title. There was all kinds of different violent episodes in different places like Rotterdam and Sweden and all over the place. Venezuelan dictator seen in cuffs in first picture aboard USS Iwo Jima to be sent to New York City for indictment. So they're sending him up on the USS Iwo Jima, which is like a battleship, right? Like It's a Air Force. What is the one where the planes take off of? Right, Air Force carrier, aircraft carrier from World War II, right? I think. Trump says the U.S. is going to run Venezuela indefinitely after sharing photo of captured President Maduro in his tracksuit and revealing that the First Lady is also going to be, his wife's going to be charged as well. We are free, we are happy. Venezuelans around the world celebrate. So far they're happy. We'll see what it can't get much worse. Maduro's capture celebrated all over the world, apparently. So that's what I got for you. Female Nobel Peace Prize winner who's set to become Venezuela's new president after Maduro was captured by Trump. I don't think she's going to be the new president. I think Trump just basically took over the entirety of Venezuela. What are you going to do with their assets? With their oil, with their gold, with their silver? Are you going to be letting Hegseth run it with Rubio? Well, who's going to be the secretary? I mean, this doesn't never been done before. This is not how you do things. I'm pretty sure Trump is black son, and if these allegations from this girl are proved true and aren't covered up again by the FBI or the DOJ further, we need to see the rest of this complaint from this girl. Where's the original document from 2020? What about any time after 1984? Did she ever come out and make these allegations, or did she only do it as late as 2020 after Trump had already served his first term? Did she do that at that time because she was hoping that with a new administration coming in that the documents would have been looked into more? Well, they weren't, and that's a problem. We're 6 years later, and this is the first I've ever heard of this allegation. So the allegation is that Trump was witness to an infanticide of a baby being murdered in 1984 aboard a yacht on Lake Michigan with Jeffrey Epstein as well. I don't know if that's a bigger story or the fact that we just took over Venezuela is a big story, but I think those are both big headlines. So I hope you're doing well, working out stretching. Is this enough information that could remove the fake, whatever this Trump is? Is that the story that they're going to use to do it? That's a pretty damning allegation. Why wasn't that looked into more heavily, especially at the time? Well, because you're starting to realize that Trump is pretty high up in the chain somewhere, right? Too. He was allowed to exist and come out of bankruptcy and given multiple chances, and now he's running the country, apparently working with the Black Sun Nazis, who we know went off planet a long time ago. So this is a battle that's like a time battle. It's like the movie. It really is like that movie Time Cop, and stuff like that, where there's people fucking around, traveling time and doing all kinds of shit they shouldn't be doing. We're dealing with people trying to break the God particle apart using like CERN and stuff. I mean, well, these people have some diabolical plans, and on top of that, they want to reduce the human population to, half a billion. So what else can these people try to do that they haven't already done? It's time for this shitty-ass, crappy-ass science fiction movie to end, and these people to be either exterminated, held to account, returned to source. I don't care where they go, but they got to get the hell up out of here, right? Sort of like at the bar when you drank too much. Hey, you got to go home, but you don't got to go home, but you got to get the fuck up out of here, right? We don't care where you go, but get out of here already and stop screwing with our reality. And how do we destroy this fake AI that's over us, destroy that matrix, and get back to a real world, right? That's what I got for you today, guys. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a nice New Year's with your family and your friends. I hope you're doing well. I'm hoping 2026 will be a much better year for us. I think it will be. I think we're going to have victory in this year. I think we're going to have a lot of things happen this year that are going to be positive. But it's going to be a fight. We're still fighting these people. And you see they don't want to leave. And we got to keep raising vibration. So I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. Using the I am attribution each day if you so choose to. Simply say I am and something positive about yourself. You can speak your reality into existence. I hope you're well. I hope to keep going and doing some more shows until we hit at least 1,000 We're close. So this is your friend in New York, Ash, NPMP News, signing off for now.